This is the Movie Geeks Film News Podcast Network. And you are watching...
Oh, really? Okay.
Hi everyone, it's Mark from mgfn.co.uk and this may or may not become the Kessel Run, a series of recordings I make as I make the commute to work, my own personal Kessel Run, except I'm not driving a piece of junk, I'm driving a little hybrid. So, this is episode 1, and in episode 1 I'm going to be talking about the spin-off movies, the standalone movies, or as we now know them, the anthology films, and more specifically, who should direct the second anthology film now that Josh Trank has left the party. So in 2012 we found out from Lucasfilm that they'd been acquired by Disney, and that Disney were now planning to make more Star Wars films, not just another trilogy in the enumerated series of films, but some standalone films, spin-offs that wouldn't relate to the central saga, the Skywalker saga. We'll be having a look in another episode at what that Skywalker saga means, specifically for the next trilogy starting with episode 7, but what really intrigued everybody at the time was the decision to make standalone films. What could they be about? Who could they centre around? And rumours started spinning that we were looking at Han Solo origin stories, Boba Fett origin stories, and that's pretty much where I checked out. I don't want to see characters that already have full arcs explored any further. They don't really need it. But what I did want to see was the exploration of some of the downtime between the trilogies, specifically Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now I'm hoping we'll still get an Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone film, an anthology entry centred around Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi in the 20 years of downtime between the first trilogy and the prequel trilogy. But what we do know now is that we're getting a trilogy, or we're getting a standalone movie, an anthology entry from director Gareth Edwards, who did Monsters and Godzilla. And until recently we had Josh Trank penned in to do the second standalone film, tentatively titled Tin Can. So read into that what you will. We found out just after Celebration that we'd lost Trank. He's gone, possibly for nebulous creative reasons, possibly let go. We don't really need to go into what caused his departure from these series of films, but he has gone. So my question is, who should replace Josh Trank? Now I have an idea, and I've started a little campaign on Twitter, and you'll all get a chance to get involved in that in a second, but we need to have a quick look at the way Lucasfilm have gone with their hiring of directors for these films, because there's clues in there as to the way they view these things. And if you look at the recruitment of somebody like Gareth Edwards, and you look at the recruitment for episode 8 of somebody like Rian Johnson, you can see that the producers are favouring filmmakers with indie sensibilities, the sort of sensibilities that George Lucas had when he came to the original movie in 1977. So if you look at something like Gareth Edwards' original entry into his filmography, Monsters, he made that himself. He's writer, producer and director on that film. He did the VFX himself, which is pretty damn impressive. And it's a great film. It's a modest film. It's effective. Really quite a skillful filmmaker. And then he makes the transition into a massive budget entry like Godzilla. And you can see that similar path echoed with someone like Rian Johnson. He's made the move from little indie films like Brick, where he's the writer, the producer and the director. Something noirish, something original. We hadn't seen that sort of thing in a long, long time. And then his most recent film, Looper, where he's made the move to the bigger leagues, bigger budgets, bigger stars, with bigger egos, if you believe Kevin Smith. And given us something like to go toe-to-toe with some of the bigger blockbusters. A fantastic action film, one of my favourite films of that year. Now he's directed episode 8. JJ's got a similar path. His beginnings were modest as a writer and producer and director. You can see a pattern forming here, and he's made his way up from television through some of the huge successes on TV like Lost, from modest fare like Alias, and now he's done the Star Trek movies, and now he's doing Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and breathing new life into a long dormant franchise. So, indie filmmakers throughout, young, aggressive filmmakers with indie sensibilities. So, Josh Trank, was he that? I guess he was, kind of. He's writer, producer, director on Chronicle. He's gone out there and made an original movie. We hadn't seen anything like that in a while. It was a bloody good film. And now he's made the move to the bigger leagues. He's kind of mirroring what Gareth Edwards and Rian Johnson have done. He's doing the Fantastic Four reboot of Fox, which may or may not have led to the problems that beleaguered him with the Star Wars anthology movie that he's been working on. But this is going to be a major blockbuster movie this summer. Whether or not people know it now, it's going to be a hit. It's going to be huge. It's a Marvel property. It's going to draw people to it like nobody can predict at this point. Now, he's left, so we need to get somebody that has that similar pedigree to fill his place. And I've got one specific filmmaker in mind that I want to get everybody's support to get him in the role of director for the second anthology film. That guy's name is Kyle Newman. If you haven't heard of Kyle Newman before, you need to do a quick Google search for him and pick up a couple of his pieces of creativity, not just film. Firstly, you need to go and watch Fanboys. Fanboys is a film that's built around Star Wars. It's about a group of friends in 1998, 99, something like that are on a pilgrimage to Skywalker Ranch. They're trying to get their terminally ill friend to see The Phantom Menace before it gets its global release. It's a comedy, it's lighthearted, it's a sensitive look at some pretty dark subject matter, and it's all really just a love letter to Star Wars. It talks about Star Wars fans, about fandom, about the obsession that it breeds, and it's a comedy. It's really well done. He's got such a light touch. So that's his indie entry, writer, producer, director. Something else you need to check out as well. If you're a Star Wars fan, you need to check out the audio dramas that Kyle Newman has written and directed and produced. I guess we could call them the Rogue series, or the Smugglers series, Smuggler's Gambit and Smuggler's Bounty, and there'll be a third instalment, I think, at next year's celebration, called Smuggler's Revenge. Now, this guy, he knows what he's doing. He's a fanboy from the start. He's at the right age to have grown up with Star Wars. He'll remember the radio dramas. And he's written and produced these radio dramas with talent like one of my favourites, David W. Collins, who does Han Solo. Jimmy Mack from the Rebel Force Radio podcast, who does all the audio designs, sound effects, works that soundboard, plays Chewie and R2. And plenty of other Star Wars alum, like Darth Maul himself, Sam Witwer from the Clone Wars, portraying different roles. Seek them out. They're only short, very entertaining, and again, a love letter to Star Wars. Now, this summer, the end of this month, in a few days, depending on when you're listening to this, it was May, that we saw the release of Barely Lethal. This is Kyle's entry into mainstream now. He's dealing with a bigger budget, and he's dealing with bigger stars, especially Samuel L. Jackson, Star Wars veteran himself. Sam played Mace Windu in the prequels. And this film centres around young female assassins integrated into the real world. It looks really funny. Again, that's probably his skill set, to give us something humorous. But it looks really competently managed as well. It's got the gloss and the sheen of a bigger budget entry, and I think this guy's going to go a long way. And his first stop needs to be a Star Wars film. The next project needs to be an anthology movie, and I'd love to see him take over from Josh Trank and take the director's seat on this film that's being tentatively titled Tin Can, which could be about R2, it could be about Boba Fett, who knows. So what do you need to do to lend your support? Well, on the screen now, this is going to, I should have mentioned, this is going to be a TubeCast, so it's going to be a podcast for YouTube, so you're probably watching it right there now. So on screen is a QR code. So you have a bit of fun with that. Scan the QR code and it will open up a base tweet. If it doesn't work, then have a look in the, if you can't scan it for whatever reason, if you're watching this on your iPhone, have a look in the description of the video. I'll put the direct link there. If you click that, it's going to open up a base tweet and you can lend your support to getting Kyle into that director's chair on Anthology 2, Tin Can, Star Wars Anthology 2, Tin Can. Please do it. Let's get the public voice heard. We need an indie filmmaker out there. That we don't want one of the big guns coming in. It needs to be one of us. It needs to be a fan, somebody who loves Star Wars out there making these films. So scan that, get amongst it. I'll stick a tweet on the screen as well. Look at that. Kyle wants to get involved. Kyle wants to do it. Scan the QR code, click that link, join the conversation. I'll be back next time.